with AI curated branding and everyone kind of fighting for attention online right now, do you think human connection is becoming more rare or more valuable than ever before?
Oh, Tish, how much time do we have?
I know, right?
Oh, man.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace.
Welcome back to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. You all know this is my favorite place to be, and I'm glad to be back here today. And today I have a gem for you. This is the first time ever that you have two presidents in the same room at the same time. Here, at least at the Sold Out Sales Podcast, I have who is really a dear friend, who I've been just blessed with to come into my life at a time that was just perfect. I tell you what, you're going to get to know her. You'll hear all the stories in just a little bit, but I will ask you to grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil or a pen, get your iPad, whatever you're going to need, because I know we're going to be talking great things today. Today, I have in studio, in person, live in the flesh, my friend and president of the National Association of Women Business Owners here in Phoenix, Arizona, Miss Joanna McPherson. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so glad to be with you, Tish. This is so special.
Oh,
We've been waiting for this time together.
For a long time. And it's like the perfect time because yesterday was technically our last board meeting. And when she kind of like handed me the baton, if you will, yesterday. So I will be the incoming president for NAWBO Phoenix. And as I was saying, I just felt like when you came on board, I don't know. I mean, we definitely had time to interact a little bit before you took your leadership role. But I think when we started spending time together and you asked me if I would be your successor, I just found just a different side of you. Not that there was ever a bad side at all, but I really just got to know you in a great way. Mm-hmm. It's been a fantastic year. How are you feeling right now, having handed the baton off?
A little vulnerable, because we made a real effort, Tish, to build it together. Yeah. So when I came on as president-elect, I've told you this many times, Tanea was like, we're doing this together and watch me. Yeah. And so when I knew my call when I asked you, and I had my eye from the beginning. When I signed on as president-elect, I was already thinking, who's going to join me for my time? Mm. And then you watch who's building, who's leading, who's stepping up, who's being a voice, who's got a vision. It was always my girl Tish. And so we had these conversations, and I knew it was like trust for you to know that I respect your expertise. It's different from mine, but my job is to hold you up and to be your teammate. And you and I have done a lot together this year. So yesterday was sort of like, we built it, and now my job is to step in the back seat and support you in the next set of the ride.
Well, look, I'm going to be jumping in that back seat periodically. Like, come here, girl, help me. Well, I'm really excited about what's to come. And we have one more meeting, one more event at the end of this month. And then we kind of go full speed ahead. But what I do want to ask you today is for our audience who is going to get to know you a little bit better, tell us a little bit about yourself, and be sure to share something that we're not going to read on your bio or know about you from your website. Tell them a little bit about Joanna.
Many people who know us through NAWBO know that I work on leadership.
Yeah.
So my favorite angle in building business is how we lead as an example, not a show, which is really interesting because we work in the visibility space.
Right.
I've built so much over the years on stages and film, as an actor, as a coach and studio owner for actors, as a nonprofit founder doing work with youth and theater, public performances, big stages. All of this was really because when you zoom out, Tish, we look at how people lead spaces, lead countries, how we lead teams, how we lead rooms where we're with our colleagues or our friends. I feel strongly that it comes down to a choice of who we want to be and what we're going to value in the room. I, as a young person, really struggled with feeling comfortable with who I am. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of belief in myself. I had big visions, big dreams. I didn't have the inner conversation to support me unconditionally.
Okay.
So it was like faith journey. It was a healing journey. And then through my business, working with leaders, how to be visible comes down to self-trust.
Yeah.
And clarity of what you're here to do and what you're an example of. So we could start a conversation there.
I know. Well, first, tell us something that we're not going to know about you from your bio.
Gosh, I share a lot. So I think of the 2 truths and a lie game I play sometimes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it sounds like, things that aren't believable. Like my grandfathers were both in the CIA, and that's how my parents met.
Wow.
I'm a Maine native and I've never had lobster.
What? Oh God, we're going for lobster. We're going for lobster.
So I guess I really want to share something that serves. So you're like, where'd you go? So I am a Harvard grad. I love telling people that I went in my 30s.
Really? I didn't know that.
There we go.
There we go.
There it was. It took me, I had already had my acting studio. I'd already been married and divorced. I had had a few nonprofits by then. By the time I was in my 30s, I was like, what do I want to do when I grow up?
That's interesting.
And I still needed validation. I was like, Harvard will give that to me.
Yeah.
So here's what I never share. This is going to be a fun one. I went and I was like, after my studio was becoming very successful, and I had been in mental health counseling school for a master's degree, and then I learned it was an illness-based diagnostic system, not a wellness-based one. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about illness, then that's object fixation. So I wanted to be in wellness. So I stopped that program. I was a manager in a health food store, and I ran my studio. And then it started to take off. My actors were in big stuff. There were people on covers of magazines. We were producing films. And people are starting to come and say, I want to be famous. I want to be on TV. And I was like, that's not why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this to change lives and help you do what? Trust yourself in front of others. So then I was like, I'm going to go become an actor again. I applied for many programs, MFA programs, which if anyone knows what that is, it's like an advanced acting degree. I got into only one out of about 40 I applied for.
Wow.
And Harvard.
Okay. I
got into those two.
I learned probably a dozen new things about you in that one conversation. We have part 2 on tap, okay?
So there's like a part of my journey.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interestingly, what you do and what I do, they're very different, but there's some cross sections.
Yes.
And I found a few that I want to kind of talk about today. So a lot of people think influence in sales come from being polished and persuasive and impressive, but your work kind of points to something so much deeper. So what actually makes people trust and buy from someone today, in your opinion? Oh,
yeah. The authenticity word is a big buzzword. And you and I have a very specific relationship to that word.
Yeah.
Because authenticity is not something you can show. It's something that you kind of give into.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true.
Yeah.
And I believe, and I tell my clients all the time that people can smell an authenticity. They can smell that kind of desperation that's there's not a real conversation happening. There's always kind of like a deeper motive behind something. And so how do you think people get past that place, especially if they've never really worked with someone like you and they don't really know that that's what they're giving?
I feel a lot of my work is educating people about what the work is.
Yeah.
Because they come thinking, like every speaker program you'll see on Instagram is how you modulate your voice, how you remember your script, how to get paid for speaking.
Yeah.
I feel all of that is the outward facing that actually doesn't lead to success, unfortunately. I don't see people who master being slick, if you will.
Yeah.
The risk of sounding judgmental.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead to conversion because it's not real.
That's true.
So what the work is to have incredibly clear self-knowledge about what you've built, who it's for, what it gives them, and the story behind it. That's the most significant piece. But all of that is work that goes not out like, how am I sounding? Am I getting paid? It's like, you've got to go in first. I tell my clients this. You're an example, Tish. Those of us who are going big in the world and becoming visible need deep roots.
Yeah.
You need so much depth, so much stability of like unshakable faith in your vision. You're right, people who are going to hold you up and support you. The conversations in yourself that when stuff happens, it's not if, it's when. The sale didn't hit that you thought would, whatever. The Instagram posts that, you get haters or you name it. You need to know that you're okay, what you're doing, what your mission is, what your call is. And that is so much inner work and below the surface that that's really where I like to talk to people. And I'm really good at now identifying who I best serve because you're a learner. If you work with me, you're a learner who's on a growth path, not out for one static outcome. There's a whole set of outcomes
for sure
that will come once you've learned how to unlock it.
I love it. You know, for a period, one of my taglines was unstoppable confidence. And I would say it. And one day I heard God say, you won't have unstoppable confidence until you have unshakable faith. Oh. And it was such a moment. It was like, ooh, because basically he was saying, you're working on the external. You're dealing with the outward facing things. And you're not going deep enough to be able to, so when things come, you know, you can get toppled over. Whereas when you have that deep, unshakable faith, it's like, you know, bring it.
Bring it.
I can stand, you know, it may not always be comfortable. It may not always be exactly what I desire, but I can stand through it. And that was a huge shift for me.
So good.
For sure. I had the pleasure not long ago of being your red carpet host at an event where you had been working with speakers and they had the opportunity to have their moment on stage. And I shared this with you. I remember I couldn't even leave the parking lot without sending you this message and just saying that, you know, we get to see each other a lot in our NAWBO role and our community work and all these various things, but it's different when you get to see someone in their genius. And I remember just saying, wow, it was literally like there was a different Joanna on the stage in such a beautiful way, meaning I just saw you in your brilliance and in your, not the kind of confidence we kind of talk about, but that deep-rooted confidence. And I have to assume that because you came through as an actor and you've done all of these various things, that at some point there was probably a place of performance. When did you realize that you could no longer hide behind performance?
I'm still realizing it.
Say more about that.
When you hit a measure of success, you have a choice to either focus on that and try to build that or stay with what got you here.
Yeah.
And what got me here is being honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And also still willing to ask for guidance.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing into those spaces where you're going to get attention. I mean, I'm on red carpets a lot. You are too.
Yeah.
And I have to feel in my body before I get on. Like there's a place in me that gets into performance mode where I'm like, turn it on. You know, my agent says this, you're able to turn it on in front of the camera. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that, you know, because what really works for the people we serve is to have permission to show up as we are.
Yeah.
And when I don't feel I am doing that, I have to stop and really go into my conversation with God. I got a message not long ago. It was only a few months ago, reminding me, because I'm getting more visibility. I've worked on this and it's happening.
Yes.
You cannot lead unless you can be led.
Truth.
Those words came into me. And I was like, okay, this is my relationship primarily.
If you're someone who hates to network because you don't always know what to say, I get you. I'm an introvert too, and I've created a free gift for you. It's my Networking and Sales Handbook just for introverts, and it is at tishtimes.com. It'll be the first pop-up you'll see. Grab it. Let me know what you think about it. It's free. Go grab it right now.
What I found interesting, I had to get a real reframe on this particular topic because people see me often like you, like in front of the, you know, whether it's in front of the camera or on the stage with a mic in your hand or leading in some way, shape, or form. But people don't always know that I'm very much introverted. And so I come off a stage and I'm like, I want to go get a book and sit in a room by myself, you know, that's kind of who I am. And people make the assumption that I'm more extroverted because of how they see me. And so there became a kind of a tape or a story in my head that, am I being inauthentic? Because when I get in front of a room, like you said, you can kind of turn it on, if you will. But what God really showed me was that when you're anointed to do something, when that anointing shows up, it's automatically going to show up differently because now I'm not walking through Tish. I'm being led through him. And so that was really big for me because it kind of felt like I would step on a stage and almost become a different person. But then I read, let me tell you something that'll like, woo. So if you ever look in the Old Testament when Saul, who was the king, who was not the best king, but he had his moment, there's a scripture where it said, and Saul would turn into another man and begin to prophesy. That specific words, he became another man. It was like under the influence, he was able to become very different. And it was like, so it's not a performance for me, at least in that I'm being something different. I'm acting different. I'm walking in my calling. And I believe that when you're on that stage, you're walking in your calling. When you're sitting on that seat, you know what I mean? And the camera begins to roll. It's not a performance. It's here I am, all of me. And that was so freeing for me. It was so freeing for me, so liberating.
Yeah, I relate to that. I think when we talk about women in particular leading, I love these words because part of what you and I built, going back to NAWBO, is the kind of room when you walk in, we've done this intentionally. There are very few spaces that I've walked in where I knew I would belong there just for who I am and what I'm walking in.
Right. There's
a lot of rooms where we just shared this yesterday in the Money Talks event. What one woman said, she's in the design business. She's like, I went to a networking meeting right after the night of our NAWBO happy hour. And I immediately felt like there's competition. I'm here to prove myself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've been in so many of those rooms.
Yes.
And they don't really build anything greater.
True.
The greater purpose, the calling, that conversation possesses me because I want every woman, every listener, because you all listen to Tish, and she's told you this, but I'm going to say it in my way. You are born for a purpose. God put a purpose in your life. And it's not about any one. It's about staying in conversation with that in every room we walk in.
Yeah.
And so when you say you saw something different on the stage, I know that I've been called. And I have been for 15 years in my journals, in my prayers, been shown you're supposed to do this certain thing. And I didn't feel up to it. Who am I? No one wants to hear that. Yeah. I'm not ready. I don't have the skill, whatever it was. You name excuse, I had it.
Yeah.
And it was only after really becoming more committed and surrendering to my faith.
Right.
I was like, all right, just use me. I want to leave with the tank empty and fulfill this call that you've asked me to do, Jesus.
Yeah.
And that showed me that you just pour, when you're in front of these people, pour the wisdom and they will get benefit and plant those seeds and let them come if it feels right for them.
I love that.
To train.
I love it. How do you help someone who maybe has not had that realization, but they come to you, and I'm sure you've had people who come to you who really just want to be, like you said, famous, or they want to be heard, they want to be influential and all of these things, but they don't quite have that realization of where that comes from. How do you help them get past that place and actually get to the moment?
It's such a good question, Tish. I've had to really think about this.
Yeah.
When you have the conversation about the call you're here to serve, the greater purpose you're here to build,
right?
I'm talking with a potential client who comes like, oh, Joanna, I want you to help me with my TED Talk. I've asked these questions because I let them share. And when I show them that the purpose they're called into is this, some people feel drawn in and some people say, well, I really just want to be paid to speak, and I've had these conversations. Yes. I say, you can probably find someone who'll do that. And I do have clients who are paid to speak.
Yes.
The path, however, is to go within.
Yeah.
And that is not what everyone wants to do, which is fine. However, the people who join with me, the first step I take with every single person, and this is the path that I walked in the defining and creating the true influence method, how you become a true influence in your authenticity, is knowing where your path began, where your business started in the early moments of your life. The whole theory here is you and I and everyone else who started business created it for a reason.
Right.
Often it's a deeper reason than we are conscious of. That started with something we experienced when we were young, or a defining moment that kind of impacted how we felt about ourselves and what we felt we were here to do, and a problem that shaped us, that we're here to solve. So the business ends up becoming an answer to what we've been sitting with this whole time. Am I enough? Do I matter? What do I need? How can I become safe? So with a lot of women business owners, when we get into that conversation, what is the greater purpose you're serving and where did it all begin? the insights happen, and that's where the talk starts to turn into sales.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I love that because you have a very, I think, special and different type of business. Sales look different for you than they might for, I look around the room in our NAWBO group, the people who are in insurance, or the person who is a banker, or the person who has a coaching company. But at the end of the day, you still have to bring in new opportunities. How are sales different for a company like yours compared to some of the others in the room?
Well, it depends on how you structure your business. So my business started as solopreneur, where I'm on referrals and people all talk to me.
Right.
Because I was only doing private client work.
Yes.
And that private advising relationship, I don't call it coaching because it goes deeper into who they are as a person and into the business. So you're kind of traveling this deep path that covers multiple things, whereas I think coaching sort of has a package feel to it. So I pivoted my language somewhat.
Yeah. And
over the time, Tish, as my business has grown, I've become the, what do you call this, bottleneck.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So as my team's grown, now the sales has to look different. So we actually just onboarded an AI integration person. I have a sales team that I'm speaking with to turn everything over and have more accessibility for the public, actually. Yeah. So what happens when you go visible is you're now telling the audience that you're for them. But now you've got to change your business from the first solopreneur to the second, which is a scalable business.
Absolutely.
With multiple access points.
Yeah.
And so then the access points means you're out of the business, me as a founder, and I let people talk to the people themselves, have lower tier offers, like my $29 million message video.
Yes.
Things like that. So my business has changed over the past even 3 months. A lot's changed.
That makes me so happy because that's pretty much all I've been talking about lately. Scalable businesses and getting the business owner out of being the bottleneck in the business, because there's no way you can grow. So I'm really glad to hear you say this. Speaking of AI, with AI curated branding and everyone kind of fighting for attention online right now, do you think human connection is becoming more rare or more valuable than ever before?
Oh, Tish, how much time do we have?
I know, right?
Oh, man, let's summarize it in this. The answer is absolutely yes. What used to be, remember organic food back 100 years ago? It was just food that came out of the ground.
Yes.
Right? And it was like industrial food is so special and unique. So now we're having to apply that to AI and in-person experiences. So what used to be just normal, this, Tish, is going to be the organic of human experiences. So it's going to be premium. I know this for multiple reasons with people who do investing work in future. You have this wave of everyone's investing in AI, but guess what the next wave is doing? They're investing in in-person event businesses.
They are. Yeah.
I'm looking at this because people who hold retreats, I have my first one in September, my first ever.
Very good.
In this business. We're starting to really build the safe containers that people need for connection. AI can do only so much. I view AI as a fantastic companion to human-led businesses.
Yes.
However, we're seeing a lot of people really crave safety, trust, respect that cannot be replaced in a heart-to-heart connection. AI can't really do that. It can never have an eye contact with you.
Yeah, for sure.
No matter how many agentic, AI bots, there is the human quality of lived experience, the human struggle.
Right.
Heart-to-heart compassion, understanding will never go out of style.
For
so we want to create those rooms and continue to do that.
I love that. And that's exactly where my heart is. Interestingly, when I started retreats, like 12 years ago, it was really needed at that moment, and did it for a long time. In 2020, of course, we kind of took a break, and I wasn't sure that we'd ever come back to them. When I had my first one, and I think it was 21 or 22, no, it was 23. It was very clear to me that this was not going to be a one and done. And I've been doing them ever since. So I know for certain the necessity of that human bond, that trust building, that authentic conversations that just can't happen. And I'll tell you a really quick funny story. So, I've been dealing with healing my back. And so I reached out to an organization that specializes in sciatic back pain and so on and so forth. So I reached out to them online because that's where I found them. When I say I had a full-on argument with their AI bot, and I ended up saying, you know what, never mind, please cancel my inquiry. And I was done. I was like, okay, I'll find something else. Well, of course, the next morning, the doctor obviously sees this and he calls me directly with apologies. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're turning that off. I mean, and I wonder how many clients they've lost not realizing. So yes, there's absolutely room for AI, but
I hope people are listening to what Tish just said, because that is something that's applicable, not just doctors.
Oh, but without a doubt.
Everyone's got an AI bot companion.
For sure. Now. And you don't always, if you're not on top of it, he just happened to come in and see it, right? If you're not on top of it, there are people that you're missing because they need a human communication. They need someone, especially, I was technically in physical pain, right? But you have people who are coming, who are in emotional pain, who are, really struggling in their business, whatever it is your specialty. If you're relying on that fully and only, you're missing an opportunity. I promise you, you're missing an opportunity. I'm going to ask this question almost knowing the answer because I feel like we've been talking about it, but in a world with, I think about what you do, what I do, people come to me all the time asking for sales scripts. I'm like, you got the wrong one. I'm not the one. I don't do sales scripts. I won't. I'll give you a blueprint. I'll kind of give you guidance, and then we'll work on building it on the inside of you. But I don't do scripts, right? And I'm sure same when you're building a talk for someone, it's really easy for people to feel like they have to have scripts and perfectly curated talks and all of these things. What do you believe people are really hungry for right now, besides all of the things that people are tending to ask for and thinking that they need?
I think you want to know what people come for and what they stay for. Because people like us, there's substance and depth there. They're going to come for making more money, having more influence, leaving an impact, which those are my three favorite areas of my business to talk to them about. But they stay for the breakthroughs, the healing. I mean, it's not a joke, Tish, to say these are healing frameworks that I've created because I needed them.
Yes.
We didn't talk much today about bravery and confidence, but I'm a huge fan of bravery over confidence. They feel like the same thing, but they're different paths. Yeah. One is the inner path. Confidence relies a lot on others. Yeah. And that's very conditional. People have stories. And so we can't hang our hat on being validated by your audience. You've got to know. Yes. Yes. And bravery is like the willingness to step out, the willingness to share, and clarity of how you connect to your audience. There's just a lot in that. Yeah. But to the point of scripts, yes, you're always going to be having to break people of their habits. And you'd be surprised. People who train with me for a year or two, it'll still come up. They're like, well, I rehearsed in the mirror. And I'm like, okay, let's go back. Yeah. It's all about having a scaffold. I give them a template. So picture like a template. It's like you start here. You say, why you're here. This is the problem you're here to solve, what you know about it. There's a whole process, 7 parts I bring them through. And I have to ask them, you've got to trust me. This is an inner, it feels like you're feeling around in the dark, but I'm guiding you to something that is going to be a very specific outcome. You think you're going to be doing it your way, you're going to end up over there. Yeah. I want you to walk over here where they're going to resonate and feel you. And it's a muscle set. Yeah. I need you to lift these weights over and over. Do it this way. It's a very specific way through the emotional honesty technique, through intuition. Trusting yourself in front of others is an irreplaceable skill that causes mastery. Yes. And I have to talk to them like that, because if you do the memorizing the scripts, guess what? When you get nervous, you go in your head, you've lost them. Yeah. You devalidated your ability to lead them because you're relying on something outside of you rather than your muscle set of clarity of what you're here to say, which you could say anything at any time. I want you here. Yeah. So let's develop a new set of muscles. No one taught you this. It's fine. Let's learn it now. It takes time, though.
It definitely does.
So you step it out in stages. Yeah.
Oh my God, we have part 2 on tap. No doubt about it. There's so much more I want to discuss with you, and we're out of time, and it's so stinky. I hate it. Okay, well, tell us in closing, who are the people who you are divinely able to really help, and what's the best way for those people to find you?
Those of us who know you have something bigger to offer through your business and leadership, and you're not tapping into it. You're saying no because you doubt yourself or you're not prepared. Those are the women and men I'm here to serve who identifies those leaders. How I help them is I'm making my phase 1 available to anyone. I have 40 spots in a retreat for September. And when you join the Tell Your Story retreat, you get video training and this live container to actually get in a safe space to be with your peers and tell your story for your business. And then at that event, we also have what you came with me to do on the red carpet. My phase 2 is building the talk from your story. Wonderful. And so we get to have all of that experience. You can buy a ticket and watch it. And then some of my phase 2 people, they're actually going to try and train privately with me in a group and get the talk and get the videos and get the photos, like the Instagram, really nice high-level videos. I'm giving them those assets to put on their speaking side on the web. So it's all great stuff coming in the next few months. And I'm available online like anyone else. JoannaHortonMcPherson.com. I'm on Instagram, and Google me and you'll find me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
I told you guys. I hope that you took notes. You can definitely listen back. And as always, put something in practice that you heard today. At the very least, take a moment to think about, where am I living here when I need to be living here? Where am I performing when I really need to be walking in my calling? And how can this impact my business, my sales, my confidence, myself? Can't wait to see you back here next week. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I would love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.